In this week's video, I'm taking you through my very first week back on placement as a third year med student. This week, I was on my respiratory week and I had a few teaching and clinical sessions that I had to attend. Despite being a medical student in a pandemic, I actually found that I learned something on the wards, which is something that can be a bit of a challenge in these crazy times. So don't forget to like, comment and subscribe and keep watching.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
Wearing a mask means that I keep my makeup extremely minimal. Firstly, because I really can't be bothered to get up in the morning and spend hours slapping on some foundation. And secondly, because I don't want to spend ages washing off afterwards. So, as a true grammar school kid, I used my £2.99 eyeliner from Boots and my £6.99 mascara from Superdrug. And there we go. That's my makeup tutorial finished. If you don't eat breakfast in the morning, then what the hell are you doing? Jokes aside, sometimes there are days where I have a glass of milk for breakfast because I'm not very hungry. But if anyone cared, I like cereal, like a lot. Monday was definitely a very simple day for me. I went into placement, went to Lidl to grab a Yum Yum, and then I think I came back and napped. On Tuesday, I walked to Leicester Royal Infirmary where I had a clinical examination session. While each of us took turns to practice various clinical examinations on a dummy, we spent time working on some clinical cases on our iPads. And yes, Leicester do provide free iPads for you, so definitely apply to Leicester Medical School. Then I worked through a few cases about ECGs, and oh my god, I think this is the point where I realised I really need to revise a lot of cardiology again. I soon collected some COVID self-testing kits, and once I'd got home from placement, I had a shower, grabbed something to eat, and then got changed into comfy clothes. And please don't judge my clothes. As I had a tutorial the next day, I spent some time to work through my respiratory workbook, where it had some cases on some common respiratory conditions. This might sound a bit extra, but I think it's kind of useful. I also wrote down a few learning points that I'd gained from the OSCE session earlier that morning, just so that I could remind myself of the things that I'd missed out during the clinical examination. By the evening, I spent some time listening to a talk from a senior doctor on how to become a paediatrician, as I have a major interest in this. And I think this is useful because I was able to figure out the different things I need to do to build up my portfolio during medical school, and wrote this down on Notion. And I think this is something that's not very commonly spoken about, so it was definitely really useful. Wednesday was a very busy day, and I started off by filming a study with me video before I went to placement. As I hadn't finished any of the workbook cases from the day before, I spent some time to answer the questions that I'd missed. Then of course I got ready in like 5 minutes, and here's a clip of me nearly falling over in the bathroom. Wearing PPE on placement can sometimes be a massive faff, and honestly I think I look like a weirdo, so if you see me, please ignore me. That day I remember being so knackered and came home to a nice warm bowl of rice and curry made by my mum and watched my favourite trashy show right now, Modern Family. After that break I got changed back into comfy clothes and I had my respiratory workbook tutorial with my registrar.
What are the other subtle things that you notice with people with COPD?
Is it like the way they breathe, like using accessory muscles and stuff, or is that just
Yeah, so they can be sort of breathe quite fast, what we call post-bronchodilator.
Not me just answering a question with my mic muted.
FEC. And the reason is because if you just do it without...
That week, I was in charge of organising the podcast for the Hippocampus podcast. And so I had a quick run through of the questions that we were going to ask our guests for that week. If you're not following the Hippocampus podcast, what are you doing? So I've put a link in my description box below. So go and check out our Instagram and listen to a few of our episodes. My day came to an end by editing an Instagram post for the podcast page. And I munched on some delicious pizza whilst watching an episode of Holby City on our new TV. On Thursday, I spent some time away from the wards and practiced clinical skills at the Leicester Royal Infirmary. Some of the skills included cannulas, taking bloods, doing blood cultures, and setting up IV fluids. And finally, in the evening, I came home to a lecture by a cardiology consultant where my brain was boggled once again with ECGs. Friday was basically the same as Monday. I went on the ward round, did some clinical skills on the ward, and came home. And the only productive thing that I did was make a TikTok, so if you don't follow me on there, the link's in my description.
I open all for the tagging. You know this cookie's for the bagging. Kitty, kitty, baby, get her things to rest. Cause you done beat it like the 68 Jets. Diamonds and nothing when I'm rockin' with you.